Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Take Out the Stigma of Grief session. Today, we are going to talk about surviving after a sudden loss, finding hope and healing. And I'm joined today by two amazing women. One, Kate Maxwell, who is the owner and founder of Wing Mom, and also Sandra Satterfield, who I miswrote or mistyped when I put bereavement counselor here because she is that, but so much more. She is also the manager of family support services at Delaware Hospice. So again, I'm so sorry for that, Sandra. We had many people on her team presenting this week, and I, just to kind of those file save as and forgot to go back. So thank you so much for that. What I'd love to start out with is just if the two of you could introduce yourself. Sandra, if you don't mind going first, just maybe share with us how long you've been with Delaware Hospice, maybe your professional background, and why you do what you do at Delaware Hospice.
Sure, would be glad to. So I've been with Delaware Hospice for a little over 12 years now. I have a master's degree in social work and then also continued with supervision so that I could become a licensed clinical social worker. So that's my credentials of an LCSW. I used to say that this job sort of fell in my lap. But truly, I really don't believe in coincidences. And I really believe that, there's divine providence. And so I believe that I've come to Delaware Hospice as a natural progression of my career, so to speak. But because of the nature of the work of the bereavement counseling, I'm no stranger to grief and loss. And so it was just sort of a very natural, great fit. Sometimes I share with folks that both of my parents were Delaware Hospice patients over the years before I started working here. So I was very familiar with the agency and always thought very, very highly of them. One of my father's main nurse is still here with the agency. So she kind of became kind of a household name with us. So I definitely value the agency and all the work that they do. I started out in my social work career as a child protective services worker. So that is a whole different kind of grief and loss. With foster care and adoption and that kind of thing. And just to add also, just one more thing, that I'm not a stranger to sudden loss either. I know you spoke yesterday, you had a panel for suicide loss. I have had two, one more close than the other, two suicides in my life. So that is a different form of a sudden loss, but still a very sudden loss nonetheless. So I bring that too. And I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing that, Sandra. That's very courageous of you. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
And Kate, if you could introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you. And the reason I wanted Sandra to go first was because I would, love for you to just lead into the story of you and Chris. So if you would feel free, go ahead and share your story with what you're comfortable.
Thank you. And I will try to do this without crying. So my name's Kate Maxwell, and I am the owner and founder of Wing Mom. And prior to owning Wing Mom, which has been, I think, almost 4 years, I had several different jobs. I worked in the hospitality industry. I was in marketing for the state of Delaware, owned my own marketing company. And then on September 24th, 2016, my fiance went to fight a fire in Canby Park. And he did not make it home. He died in the line of duty in 2016. And I kissed him goodnight on Friday night around 6 p.m. And by 6 a.m., I had like 30 people at my house informing me that he had died. As you can imagine, my world will never be the same it's just different. I'm not the same person. I wasn't the same person from the moment that I was told that he had died. And as I grow to be the person that I am now, I don't even recognize who I was kind of when he was alive. But I'm going to try not to say 1,000 times. So the first 9 months after he had passed, I was a mess. And I say 9 months because I was drinking and I was medicating and I really don't even know how to describe it. I wasn't suicidal, but I was out of options. I really didn't know what life looked like for me anymore without him. And I really couldn't see a future at all. And I think a lot of people cannot want to wake up in the morning. I often would think it would be okay if I didn't wake up the next day. I didn't want to commit suicide, but I was perfectly fine if I just wasn't around anymore. And I think there's a difference. But during that 9-month period, I had just the most amazing support system and people that would take my kids to school. They would bring me dinner. They would do my laundry. They would grocery shop for me. Pretty much anything, any service that you see that is now listed in my business, somebody did for me. So on July 29th of 2017, I decided to get sober. My kids have been begging me to get sober. And I know this really isn't about that, but for me, I did not want to feel any feelings after the loss. And so really that first year, I didn't deal with the loss at all. So as soon as I got sober, I was like, I want to do for other moms what was done for me. And so I started a company called Wing Mom. I didn't know what it would look like. I didn't know what it would be. I didn't know if it would be a nonprofit or just, a neighborhood type thing. But very quickly, I realized that there was a really big need for moms specifically who just can't get everything done in a day. And here I was, the recipient of all of these amazing things when Chris passed, and I knew I could help. And that became my passion. There was a lot of guilt involved after it because it did, we are successful. And I've met amazing people like Nicole and working with amazing people like hospice. I wouldn't have that if he were alive. And so there's a lot of guilt around that. I was just talking to somebody today, and I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. If we're trying to stay on script, I'm not going to do that, but
you are totally fine.
Okay.
It's a conversation. You're good.
I
Doing
feel
great.
as if widows know other widows. There's just something we share. I was talking to somebody today, and I feel like it's my mission to get everybody connected and meeting one another so that we realize we're not alone, especially when you're young. All of your friends and family are still kind of carrying on with life as normal. And here you are in the prime of what's supposed to be the prime of your life, and your spouse has passed and you're a single parent. And there's a lot of challenges with that. So I most certainly am not okay. And I'm okay saying that. And my friends are okay when I say that because they know that every day I get better. But I think for me, his loss was very public, and I didn't get to grieve in a way that I wanted to grieve. I didn't get to plan a funeral or a memorial because it was all done for me, because the IAFF came in and planned it. And what should have been something that was friends and family turned into thousands of people because he impacted so many people's lives, which was amazing. But I feel like I missed a lot. And I think I beat myself up a lot when I go back and look at that. But then I also look at the fact that I was a walking crazy person after he died. I didn't know which end was up because nobody's prepared for this. I had had a sister pass when I was 15. I had had my grandparents pass. But they're all natural, not natural, but there's a progression that follows your 80-year-old grandfather passes, or, my sister died suddenly, but she was older and had children. This just hit me differently. And I'm not trying to say that watching a loved one pass from cancer isn't hard either. It's just the awareness that my life was literally one way, and then 12 hours later was exactly the opposite of it. So the suddenness of it definitely has always hit me, specifically because I have things like, he wasn't supposed to be at work that night. He had exchanged a shift. So what could have happened then? Just the shoulda, coulda, woulda game plays in my mind all the time. What if I just told him I didn't want him to go to work? Would he have listened? So that's my story. It's definitely not all of it, because I don't really know what else to say, but I got with Delaware Hospice because randomly we were called so that my employees could help spread the word about hospice, because hospice had all of these amazing things happening. And I didn't know anybody, because you think, oh, my grandfather has cancer and I'm going to put him on hospice and that's the end of that. Well, I didn't realize that there were all of these support services for my kids and for myself. And it seemed like, and then meeting Nicole and knowing we were kindred spirits. So I'm very happy to be here. I feel like this is not, for us at least, or for me, a month where we're just going to collaborate with hospice and then go away. I think this is something I need in my life all the time, helping people. So
That was perfect. That was absolutely beautiful. You got through it. I'm so proud of you.
talk to me at the end.
This is true. This is
Yeah.
true. So Jen Sayani, who she's on this call. She's her camera off. So Jen's the one that saw about Wing Mom on. Oh, there she is. Hi, Jen. So Jen had actually seen something about Wing Mom on Facebook and shared it with me. She's like, "You've got to reach out. This is a great company. I think there could be, an amazing partnership." Jen has this way of connecting people, and kind of like what you said, Sandra, it's like divine intervention that this happened. And I got on the phone with Kate and I felt this instant bond, because we were in a widows club.
Yeah.
It's a club you never want to be in. It's a club you don't want to invite anyone into. But it was one that we were in together, and felt this need to really help other widows, help people on their journey. And my cat is trying to get over here. So if you see something strange, I apologize. Like if it's not a kid, it's one of the 5 I have 6 animals. Okay. I'm going to share my screen here in a moment. Show you a picture. And there's Chris. So handsome. So this is what my family looked like 5 years ago. It's my husband, Will, our son, Antonio, and Allie and Tristan, whom we adopted. And we had a great life. It wasn't perfect, but we were happy. He was absolutely my best friend and the only person that could make me smile. No one else could make me laugh like he did. And on November 12th, 5 years ago, I got a call that there had been an accident and I was to meet his family at the hospital in Westchester. And he worked in a warehouse, and I kind of thought, oh, a pallet fell on him, a forklift, like something. He was type 2 diabetic. I thought, okay. And, so I'm driving there and I'm like, why isn't he picking up his phone? I don't understand. It's not like him. And I got to the hospital and I gave my name, and I got this strange look from the nurse. And someone came out and ushered me literally to a little white room and told me that my husband had had a massive heart attack and that he had died, and they were not able to revive him. He was found in the bathroom at work, and they had to break the door down to get him out. Fortunately, he was not on the toilet. That was one thing that, did bring me a sense of, okay, thank goodness. I just didn't want him going out like that. And he was 43. He's a typical middle-aged man. And like Kate, like, you go back and you think, what if I, would have seen something? What if I had convinced him to go to the doctor? Would he still be alive? And it was definitely life altering. And then to think, wait, there are 3 children here. He had no life insurance. How am I going to live in this house? And then to make matters worse, this is something Kate didn't say, but we also have in common. His family basically turned on me and our kids and said horrible things to us, texted horrible things, did not want to be part of the funeral. Um, it, it was agonizing because my children not only lost their father, but they lost their grandparents, their aunt, uncle, and their cousins in the process. About a month later, or 2 months later, my husband's father died. I found out on Facebook 3 days later that he died. And just 3 weeks ago, a neighbor texted me, "I'm so sorry to hear about your mother-in-law." Apparently she had died too, and no one told me. And again, it's living that grief all over again, and incredibly painful. But out of it came such wonderful things that I can now look back on. And like Kate said, I look back at that person, and that person doesn't even seem to exist anymore because I've had to grow in ways I never thought possible and stretch. And Kate and I have shared that besides being in that widows club and, having in-laws who, might not be the best, we can both say that we are in the job of our dreams because the love of our lives passed away. And I get to share his story almost every day. And I get to talk to people about end of life planning and advanced directives, and to say, let your family know what it is that you want in life and write it down. Because my husband didn't. I knew what his wishes were for a funeral and a service, and what he wanted our children to do, and what his dreams were for our family. His family didn't. And I was told nasty, nasty things that I was making this all up and creating a drama in my mind, a drama series in my mind. So I always like to tell people, number one, make sure your spouse has life insurance. Please find the money to do so. Have a conversation with your spouse, your loved one, and know what's important to each other, so that if the time comes, you don't have to worry and you can do what you want. And Kate, I'm so sorry that you weren't able to do that, for Chris. And, even though I did what I knew in my heart was right, whenever I would, think back into what his family had said to us, and it just brings this horrible picture to mind. But I've, as the days go on, you learn how to put that down and, kind of push it away and move through it, move forward, and concentrate on life and concentrate on living. And it's not easy, but through Delaware Hospice, I found out that they offered a kids bereavement program called New Hope. My 3 children went through it, and it was at the point where I was at the memorial service, and I realized my kids are going to be okay, and I can start to grieve, because they were given these tools to help them that they'll have with the rest of their lives. And I started to volunteer for Delaware Hospice, and when a job opening came, I took it, and I haven't looked back, and it literally is the job of my dreams. So what we're going to do next, just walk through a few slides about coping and trying to move forward. Oh, there's this slide. I forgot about this one. So my husband was a huge Harley guy. And he told me one of the things I knew, he wanted to be cremated, and he did not want to be put in a vase with pretty flowers on it. There was some other colorful language in there. And so I needed something that had Harley Davidson on it, and I couldn't find an urn. So I found a gas tank. So he's in the gas tank. His mother is just appalled by that. Probably still looking down, from heaven, like, how could you? But I think my husband's happy. So here are a few things we'll talk about in coping with the death of partner, of someone that you love. It's so important to acknowledge your feelings, to go easy on yourself, to try to be patient and kind. One of the things my kids learned through New Hope, I think it was said every hour, at least 5 times, where feelings aren't right or wrong. They just are. And it's okay. You can feel angry. You can feel sadness. You might even smile once in a while, and it's okay. It's so important to take care of your physical health. I remember, my wing mom in my life, my best friend, I remember her calling and asking me when the last time I ate was, and I couldn't remember. And she said, I am staying on the phone with you until you go through the drive-in at McDonald's and get yourself a fillet of fish. And I remember taking this picture with this fillet of fish in one hand and fries, like kind of like this, with my phone, taking a selfie so that I could prove to her that I was eating. It's about having somebody there in your corner to make sure you drink your water and you try to eat something. Another thing people said was, try not to make big decisions right away. You're not ready for that. Now, sometimes people have to. And if you do, try to have those friends that you can rely on to help guide you, because you're not thinking clearly. If you're in a fog, and it's so difficult to see through that fog. It takes a long, long time to get through that. And besides having those friends and there's family, at times you might need a little extra help, that complicated grief. And Sandra, if it's okay, I just want to, ask you to, maybe share, like, when is it time to really think about that, about calling a therapist or support, like something through Delaware Hospice?
Well, if you're going to talk with one of our bereavement counselors, it's really not ever too soon to do that. Truly, it's not ever too soon to reach out and say, I'm struggling with something. I need some additional support. What I've always done in the past for similar situations isn't working this time, or this situation is very different. So I don't think it's ever too soon to reach out and really share with somebody what you're struggling with, what you're going with. You may have tried all that you know, but you may not have tried all that someone else knows. And so Delaware Hospice is here to help with grief counseling. Sometimes for the more complicated grief, we would refer out to a therapist. And for complicated grief, I would say that there's a lot more struggle with maybe some functioning issues above and beyond what's typical grief, or if it really has prolonged for several years. And I don't mean to say that once you've gotten through that first year or second year, then your grief is done. But there are some very significant markers for when someone is absolutely stuck in taking that step forward one day at a time. And that's when I think they would best to be served by an outpatient mental health therapist.
And Sandra, you have several types of bereavement support groups, correct?
That's correct. We have a monthly support group, which is for a general kind of a check-in. That may or may not be the same folks that you see from month to month, but generally someone who maybe doesn't want to talk about their grief week after week, or if they're maybe a little further along in the grieving, then a monthly group is kind of like a monthly check-in, and to get support around whatever you're dealing with at the time. We also have a 6-week support group, which is a little more educational. We have a general outline and curriculum that we like to follow. So there's a huge educational component to that, but it's not entirely that. Obviously, there's lots of times for folks to share and get support from others. And generally, that's the same folks each meeting for 6 weeks, same time. for that. So that gets fairly consistent so that folks gain some trust and get to know folks, and then they can feel a little bit more comfortable opening up and sharing. We also have some other things going on, like a book club, where you can purchase a book, and obviously grief related, and read the book on your own, and then join the group for discussion and again share what you're struggling with. So those groups can be found on our website. We have the grief support calendar. Before COVID, we would put out a quarterly newsletter. Not quite back to that yet, but all the activities that we have going on are on our website. So,
Thank you, Sandra. On Saturday night, Delaware Hospice had a festival at home. It was a video talking about our Festival of Trees annual fundraising event, and I'll talk about that towards the end. And there was a gentleman who came on who lost his wife. I believe it was just a few months ago, right, Sandra? The gentleman that spoke. And he, oh, I'm sorry, not the Festival of Trees. This is the memorial service. Sorry, they all go together. It was the memorial service.
his loss was
He
almost
just articulated a year ago. Okay. And he articulated beautifully, about his feelings. And he said that he loved being in this support group because he really did feel that bond, that he felt like other people in the group understood and they got it and he wasn't alone. And it was just wonderful, to hear that power of the group. And sometimes talking with strangers can make it a little bit easier, I think. Some people find that helps.
Yeah, it was called the airplane syndrome. Not really a syndrome, but just that thought that when you're sitting next to a stranger on an airplane, you might be more likely to share something than the folks who know you best.
True.
And so sometimes the support group can kind of act that way.
I know when Chris passed, I literally said probably a day later, okay, I'm going to need to see somebody. I just knew how insurmountable this loss was. And I wasn't going to be able to get by without it. And so I think I saw a grief. They found a wonderful grief counselor for me. I think I saw her on day 3, stayed with her. And, if I can speak a little bit about these 5 things, I think going easy on yourself was probably the hardest thing for me to figure out, because you're not supposed to in life cry when you're getting gas or break down at the grocery store or need to lay on the couch for 3 days. It's all of these things are ingrained in you thinking that they're wrong. And then all of a sudden this grief hits you and you're like, wait a second, this is what I need. And so trying to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing versus what I'm needing was always really hard for me. Once I kind of figured out that, yes, this is what my body needs me to do, then that was helpful. And then just one other thing that I will say, well, 2 actually, I cannot stress enough about making major changes right away. It's probably one of the things that has bitten me in the butt the most, because decisions, and as Nicole alluded, my situation was not the best. We were not married. We were sharing a home. Our families were blended. We lived with one another. We had met with a financial advisor like 3 weeks prior, and we had filled out this paperwork about what he wanted. And, my name's all over it. He wanted, me to have this amount of money, and he wanted my boys to be taken care of, even though they weren't his boys. And he wanted his kids to be taken care of and his family to be taken care of. And somehow, because we weren't married, we got cut out of the equation. So I'm not expressing that you should go home to your spouse and say, you need to marry me right now. Although I will tell you that when Chris was alive, I used to use that as an excuse all the time and say, you need to marry me because, like, what happens if you die in a fire and I have no rights? And then he died in a fire and I had no rights. And so I can laugh now 4 years later, but months into it, things were expressed to me or questioned or done to me in such a way. I was asked to do things. He died September 24th. On October 13th, his ex-wife came into my home and removed all of his stuff, his clothes, his shoes, his underwear, our furniture, pictures off the walls, everything. And she basically said, these belong to his children. Never once. I did not have the time to process what I was giving away. I didn't have the time to process what my rights were. Now I look back and people will say to me, well, why did you let them in the house? But at the time, I'm still thinking I'm going to have a relationship with his children. And this is a way to play nice. And if this is what she wants, then this is what I have to do because his 3 kids were my kids. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. People aren't as nice as you think they are going to be. So I think finding yourself surrounded by family and friends, making sure you don't make major changes, and seeking help for your grief are really important, because I feel emotionally blackmailed from a lot of the stuff that happened to me. I really do. I feel taken advantage of, and I wasn't with it to even realize what was happening. And luckily I had friends that supported me. But at the same time, I was thinking, no, just play nice, play nice, play nice, because then I want to see his kids. And I never got to see his kids again. So, I mean, I don't know. I think this gets into a little bit deeper. For Nicole and I, we've had this conversation. The loss of his family is like a whole other loss. It's at times I feel as if sometimes it can be bigger than the grief of losing him itself, because then I get angry, like, this is not what he would have wanted. He would be mortified that this were happening, the way myself and my children are treated, the way that his memory is being preserved. So writing, having, even if you just have a piece of paper, if you can't afford a lawyer, or Wills for Heroes is definitely, I know, a group. I think hospice even helps with wills and wishes. Just having something on paper where other people are aware of what your wishes is so important, because I remember his mom saying to me, well, what does he want to be, buried or cremated? And I'm like, duh, he wants to be cremated. He's a firefighter. He loved lighting things on fire. Like, what are you talking about? Cremation makes so much sense. But even then I look back and they're like, well, I guess, it just talk to somebody about what your wishes are, because grief is so big. And I don't discount the grief his mom was feeling. I don't discount the grief his aunt or his ex-wife were feeling. Sometimes I will say things that sound insensitive, but I think, Nicole, you would understand, like, some people lost some of him. I lost all of him. So his mom, he was my best friend and I talked to him every day, and I don't discount the fact that his mom lost a child at all. And I think if I lost a child, that would be the most painful thing I'd ever have to go through. But I couldn't go to the grocery store without him coming with me. We were with each other all the time. So I think navigating, and especially when it's sudden, which is what we're talking about, like, you don't have the time to figure it out, because you just don't expect it. Chris was 41. So I definitely think not making major changes was definitely something I look back and regret greatly, because I did make some very major changes, whether I was a willing participant or an unwilling one, that I look back now and I'm like, it's done. There's nothing I can do.
You know what, I'm so glad you brought some of that up. It actually, I don't know if you saw the slides before or not. This was the perfect lead-in, Kate.
No. Okay, there it is.
There it is. But like, as you do feel a little bit stronger, these are just some things to consider. And Kate touched on actually a lot of these. Writing a will, if you don't have one, do it. Update your advance directive. If you don't have one, do one. There's a part in there where it talks about whether or not you want to be an organ donor, and his family didn't know that my husband wanted to be one, but I knew. And a very quick story, because I know we're soon at time, but the day he died, I got a call from the Gift of Life folks, and they had to ask some very difficult questions, just as if you were giving a blood transfusion. If he had relations, we'll just say, because there are little ones around, with other men, with animals. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, my husband just died. And this was after meeting with the police and the coroner. And then there was this question. Now, this is a hard question for a young widow. And two things crossed my mind. Number one, what on earth could possibly be more difficult than asking about the animals?
Yeah.
And, oh my God, I'm a widow. And they said, well, we do life enhancing and life-saving techniques with Gift of Life. And I'm thinking, oh dear God, where is this going? And they said, well, we can use skin from his back for breast reconstruction. I actually replied, hell yes, he would love to be on a boob.
Yeah.
But those are the things that I laughed, and it struck me. I just laughed, and my husband died hours earlier. How is that possible? But then I realized he would want me to laugh. He would want me to smile again. And that boob story, as it's been called, I now go and speak for Gift of Life, and they ask me to tell that because they want people to laugh. They want people to smile, and that there is wonderful things that can come out of it. So I simply had to share that because I find it necessary. If you are married, even if you're not, if you have joint property in your name, you have to, or in both of your names, you need to work through those things. Insurance, whether it's car insurance, health, life, homeowners. So just some things, again, not to worry about doing it all right away, but just some things to keep on the horizon.
And just to interrupt really fast.
Sure, go ahead.
But things that the way in which we view marriage, or I viewed marriage, I'm 43, the way I grew up, it's you're either married or you're not, right? Well, now we have life partners and we have spouses, and you don't have to be married. So a lot of the time I thought that being in somebody's will is possible without being married to them. Being the beneficiary of somebody's insurance policy is possible without being married to them. I think if I had to champion anything, which I don't have the time to do that right now, but it would be educating people that life partners are very much the same as a spouse, maybe not legally, but you still have the same rights, you have the same feelings, you have the same grief, issues, everything, and you still have the same need to get things down on paper, even if you're not married. As a matter of fact, you actually have a need to get down on paper more so if you're not married. Because if you're married, you all of a sudden inherit all of these rights that you don't have. So just please, I can't stress enough, if you are a life partner, you still need to get this stuff done. It can be done even though you don't have a piece of paper saying you're married.
So very true.
Yeah.
I do apologize for the screaming in the background. That would be my 10-year-old playing Fortnite. And he has headphones on.
Earlier so that you wouldn't hear the screaming in the background. So I don't know what's worse.
This next slide just talks about when and if you are ready to venture out again. And, just some things here. You can read through these, but, very important. It's just, you be you. You know yourself better than anyone. And when you feel ready and you can move on, then it's right for you. And there's just a few options. It could just be getting out and volunteering. Not that you want to meet someone, but just to get out again. In just a way, you have to look at your entire life differently. You may not want to go to parties anymore because there are people that are a couple and you're not. And how does that affect you? And are you going to be okay with that? And above all, just some things to pass on. If I could get to the next slide, there we go. Take care of yourself. Talk to friends and family. Smile. It's okay. You will smile again. and to be open to new experiences and creating those memories and those traditions. And I'll actually be talking in a moment about some other sessions we have this week, about ways to remember loved ones. Before I do that, I just want to see if there are any questions. I see a cutie pie down in the corner of my screen. Who is this? I'm trying to make him bigger. You gonna wave? Hi there. Oh my goodness. Hi. I love when kids and animals pop up on Zoom calls. Just
One of
makes it
your
all
slides was
worthwhile.
like animals can be carrying. I'm like, when Chris
Yes.
passed, I had 0 animals. Now I have 2 dogs and 3 cats.
It's amazing how that
Took
happens.
that one to heart.
Yes, you did. Here are some of the other sessions that we have for Take Out the Stigma of Grief. We have a full day planned tomorrow talking about anticipatory grief, things people wish they knew before their loved ones died, 10 ways to remember your loved ones, and then the grief associated with going through divorce, because that is a type of grief. And then we'll finish out the week with a special Thanksgiving blessing, because Thanksgiving is very different for a lot of people this year, and it's going to be difficult for some. So we just wanted to have something, to share with people in the community. And then also, as part of Take Out the Grief sessions, we have Take Out Food. So these are some wonderful restaurants and organizations that are partnering with us this week and with Wing Mom, and donating a portion of proceeds to Delaware Hospice to fund some programs and events for the community. So there's some great ones on there, from cupcakes to go to Advent wine calendars and everything in between. So there's some good ones. Earlier when I was thinking that gentleman spoke at Festival of Trees and it was the memorial service, just to let everyone know, Festival of Trees has gone virtual this year. It's very well known as a beautiful event over the years. And at our website, you can go on and purchase a remembrance ornament. One of them is shown here. And there's an opportunity to look at the trees online, vote for your favorite one, and go to our Etsy shop and purchase holiday gifts. But the remembrance ornaments are absolutely beautiful, and many families purchase one every year for their loved one as a sort of tradition. And, we said it earlier, we're here for you, anything that you need. We're more than just hospice. It's the bereavement services for children and adults. It's palliative care. If you have a serious illness, still looking for curative care, we can be that extra layer of support. We have a number of programs, even programs that are non-medical, a transitions program connecting you to community resources and helping with advanced directives. And of course, a special thanks to Wing Mom. Kate talked about Wing Mom earlier, and her partner Bonnie is actually the one that came out with this Take Out the Stigma idea, starting with food, and then let's build upon it, and then offer these grief sessions too. So it's been a very unique collaboration, and we're so glad we met, the kindred spirits, if you will. And then finally, well, I should also mention Sherm's Catering. They're giving Thanksgiving meals to the winners of the Wing Mom contest.
Yep, we
which
have
you can
3.
find
They've
at.
been chosen. They're awesome.
Excellent.
Yep.
Excellent. I am so glad.
Yes.
And these are just our corporate sponsors. We always give a nod to for supporting us, because as a nonprofit, we provide so many services, many for free to the community, thanks to our sponsors and our donors and our volunteers. And that basically is it for our presentation today. Thank you so much for joining. I will stay on, afterward, in case anyone would, has some questions they would like to speak about, or, any information. Kate, thank you so much for your bravery, for your honesty, and, for connecting. And Sandra, for being here, from a counselor's perspective and helping out.
The only other thing I wanted to say is,
Yes.
and please share this, is Wing Mom is sponsoring families that may have fallen on hard times for Christmas. So we are still,
Oh, great.
will be accepting applications until the 30th. So if anybody that's on this Zoom either financially is unable to or just emotionally is unable to provide Christmas for themselves and their family, we can help. So wingmomde.com, we are still accepting applications, and obviously I'm going to be partial to widows. So anyway, thank you for this opportunity, and thanks for throwing this all together. We're
welcome.
really blessed for this partnership. So
thank you so much. And Sandra, special thanks to your team for this week. They have been absolutely incredible. You have an amazing group of counselors working for you that I've had an opportunity to get to know on a different level this week, and I'm already helping people. So thank you.
Good. I couldn't agree more. Thank you.
Thanks,
Well,
lady.
happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Stay safe, social distance, wear your mask, and wash your hands.
Bye.
All righty. Bye-bye. Take care.